Welcome to Conversations with Heroes, Jenny. You know, you are my hero, and I want the world to know today why you are my hero. So let's start with something basic. Tell us what you're doing, where are you going to school, what are you studying? Let's start with that.
I go to a junior college in South Florida, and I'm studying graphic design.
Nice. Yeah. That's wonderful. What kind of stuff are you designing?
Well, I'm still in the basic courses, so I'm learning to use the Adobe suite, the Adobe like Photoshop, Illustrator, and design.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You know that. Yeah. Okay, so what the purpose of Conversations with Heroes is to highlight individuals who are doing amazing work in this world and who have struggled, just unbelievable trauma, including myself. As you know, I'm a survivor myself. And the point is to bring awareness to the world of what happens when it comes to sex trafficking. So I would really appreciate you sharing your story from your childhood.
Okay, first, the term human trafficking is fairly new.
Okay.
To our culture. It's become almost like this thing all of a sudden we're talking about. But human trafficking itself isn't new. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. This is not something that just started happening. It goes way back, like thousands of years,
Of course.
And what I think is a lot of things have been normalized in our society. And when you grow up in a family where there's abuse and things going on, that's normal. So when you're introduced to different things, it's normal, And that's kind of what happened to me at a very young age. I started being sexually abused by my dad and my grandfather when I was 4. That's my earliest memories of it. And shortly after that, I remember my dad sending me away with these people, and I was sexually abused. And I just thought, hey, I have to go with these men, and this is what men do, and this is what I'm supposed to do. Gradually, it got worse and worse, where it was just sex. It turned to violence and sex, and some of it, like I had to participate in the violence. And my brothers were born. They were 4 years younger than me. We have the same dad, but they have different moms, and they don't share a mom either. So they're the same age, but different moms, same dad. So they were forced into it as well. By the time one of my brothers, when he was 8 years old, he ended up dying in a human trafficking situation. And that's another thing, like you think that people just come for sex, but they'll pay big money to kill someone, to harm someone.
What do you think that mindset is? Is that a fetish that they have?
It's a fetish, it's a sickness, it's
right.
It's perverse, it's evil. I don't know. I can't
understand.
Yeah.
What they're sociopaths, basically.
Yeah. It's like trying to I'll give a logical explanation for something that's totally illogical, and you would think is like no human being could possibly do that to another human being, but they do.
Absolutely, and having been doing this work for 12 years, I've seen it all, from sex trafficking, from forced labor, from sexual abuse of children, and everything. My question for you is, can you take us there? Can you take us, the viewers who are watching this, and without disclosing where it is or anything, but can you paint a picture for our viewers? What was it? Was it a compound? Was it an apartment? Was it a house? What was going on there? Can you take us there?
Sure. what I can identify and what I want people to know is this happened in Florida. So this is happening in the U.S. It's not a different country. It's in your backyard, and it's happening to the people down the street. And the people participating are your neighbors, are your brothers, sisters, clergy, bosses, police officers. There was two main places that we would go. One was this really nice house. I just called it the White House because it was this huge mansion type house, and it was white. Mm-hmm. And then the other place was, I call it a campground, but when I say campground, I don't mean tents or RVs or anything like that. It's more like cabins, kind of out, away from everything. It was really nice. It was a really nice place. Mm-hmm. Also, the people that would come to see, to purchase, to do whatever.
Excuse me.
They were anywhere from like everyday people, like looked like normal professionals.
I remember when I interviewed you last, you mentioned that there were athletes.
There was one athlete.
Okay.
I know specifically who he is, and professional athlete, someone.
Doctors, lawyers, businessmen.
Yeah, one of the guys that kind of ran the show, he was actually a doctor, and
he ran the cult.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he ran the cult, but he ran like the sect of the cult.
Do you remember how many children were there when you were taken there? An estimate.
Like every visit, there could have been just me, or there could have been like 24 of us at one time.
Was the abuse taking place in front of everyone, or were they taking them to separate quarters where they were abusing them?
It's both.
Okay.
One is when clients would come, when I'm not going to call them clients, when pedophiles would come.
Right.
Because most of us were children,
right.
And they would purchase whatever service, and we would be taken in abuse. A lot of times, sometimes there was a group of us that would go with the person, or there would just be one of us that went. But then on the other hand, the traffickers, there was abuse that took place in front of everyone. Mm-hmm. I guess to give an example, to kind of keep us all under control, this girl was being rebellious and not following the rules and giving them a lot of trouble. So after they beat her and she still wouldn't do what she was supposed to do, they made an example out of her, and they ended up setting her on fire. So and that terrified all of us.
To comply.
Yeah, because if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. And a part of that, and it's so sick because they do this abuse, and they make you they made other, I didn't personally do it, but other victims actually do it. Yeah, because if they don't, they're going to go too. And so then you feel implicated. As a child, you don't understand. All you understand is, I just killed someone and I could get in a lot of trouble. And if I say anything, I'm gonna go to jail. I'm gonna get in so much trouble, and just people are gonna hate me. And you start to hate yourself, and your mind is just totally warped. You start to believe everything is your fault, right. That you deserve all of this, right. That you're the evil person,
right. But
it's actually the traffickers.
Of course. Tell us about how you were able to get out of this.
As I got older, I became pregnant. There was complications in the birth. I was giving birth early. I ended up bleeding a lot, and I ended up having to go to the hospital before the doctor could get there to help out. And at the hospital, I gave birth, and my daughter unfortunately passed away 3 days later. And I went into this deep, like, I really don't remember. I just remember knowing that I was in the hospital for a long time, for a week or more, around about. And just because I was told I wouldn't talk, I wouldn't do anything.
Right.
It was just like from shock and everything. You're 13
course.
years old. You can't process that. It's hard to process as an adult.
Let alone a child.
Yeah.
Right.
And then also like having that, like, as an adult looking at it back, looking at it from here, it's like, I'm so grateful my daughter died, because she would have been brought up in the same thing. But yet my heart aches because now I can't have children. And I did care about her. And it really sucks. It's like this catch-22.
Right. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I'm so sorry.
Once that happened, I had my little girl. It's kind of like everything kind of stepped back a little bit. It wasn't as often. It was almost like they were giving me like mental health break or something. I don't know. And then I just started to just break down, and just psychologically I wasn't okay. Mm-hmm. And I think they knew that, and they knew I was in a dangerous position. And I ended up running away from home, which that was a totally different story. I ended up coming back. But I guess because I was older and I was like just constantly running. I was never at home. I was always at a friend's house, or, always hiding. I eventually left the state once I was an adult. Mm-hmm. and got away. I ran away up north, and I thought in order to be safe, I would get, all I had to do was get married and find someone with a good family. And so I did that, and I moved to the country and married this narcissistic abuser. It's like I went from one frying pan to another one, right. Just trying to get away. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier, it's like you normalize everything.
Of course.
Like, okay, yeah, it's normal for a husband to hit his wife.
Well, you don't know any different.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I deserved that because I burnt the chicken,
Right. How long did that relationship last?
We were together a total of 10 years.
And it was physically and verbally abusive?
And sexually abusive.
I'm sorry to hear
that. And that's another thing. It's like, when you tell somebody about what happened, they're like, oh, he's your husband. I'm like, oh man, am I going to be stuck with this like my whole life? Like,
what was your last straw when you decided to leave him?
We were about to move to the big city, close to like the closest big city to where we were living. And I don't think he really wanted to leave the country. And I had got another job, and I was going to go first, and then he was going to, as soon as I found an apartment, he was going to come join me. But then that happened, and I was like, okay, this is my break. This is where I have a job already. I have a friend I'm going to stay with. And I think, and then 6 weeks after that, I was diagnosed with cancer. So it was like, I was hitting my bottom, but I knew, I was like, God, why are you doing this to me? Because like, here I am alone. Why couldn't I had cancer when I was with him? And I was like, okay, if I had cancer when it was him, it would be all about him.
Right.
And just realizing just how sick in the relationship I was. And that's actually when things started to spiral. I think everything from my past just kind of hit me. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was seeing this amazing therapist, and we talked about trafficking and my past, and she found a place in South Florida for me to come stay for a little while, and that's when I started receiving the help.
The last time when I interviewed you, you talked about some girls that you met that I don't know, you were outside somewhere and then you guys met some guys, and then tell us about that a little.
That was actually when it was the last time my father raped me. I had kind of had enough. I was barely 16, I mean, just by a few days. And I screamed out for help, and that's something I never did. Mm-hmm. And my mom turned on the vacuum, mm-hmm. which, that was it just felt like utter defeat. My mom knew the sexual abuse was going on, and I feel like she viewed me more as competition than, hey, I'm not the one doing the bad thing. Right.
I've seen that. Yes.
Right. And I was again, just one of those bottoming out moments, okay, there's no one here to help me. This is not ever going to change. And I had been in conversation with a friend that he had, tough time at home as well. So I was I have to leave. And he's okay, let's leave, let's run away. So we ran away, and we were downtown in the city we lived in, and we met these guys. The first night we were out, and they seemed pretty cool. Mm-hmm. We were smoking weed with them, and we're oh yeah, whatever. Then the next night we run into them again. Again, they give us some weed. It's pretty cool. And they said they were having a party at their house. Mm-hmm. And they offered, for us to come hang out with them. And they were cool the night before, so hey, this is going to be cool too. They gave us some ecstasy. And we got in the car with them and went away. But it wasn't ecstasy that they gave us. I don't remember what happened or how we got to the house we were in. It
kind of blacked you out, right?
Right.
Okay.
But I know that I came to, I was in a room with my friend, and he was tied. I don't know how to explain what this thing was. It's more like in construction, you see them use those saw horses to put boards on. It's something similar to that, and he's kind of slumped over, tied to that thing, and mm-hmm. I was tied up in a sex swing. And I know for 3 days, men were coming in and out of the room, doing whatever they wanted to do, raping both of us. The guy that was kind of running the show, he at one point brought another girl in, and there was a bed in there, and he kind of threw her on the bed, but she was kind of out of it and just not, she was never really conscious,
right?
Yeah, sorry. And then after, I don't know how long she was there, but he ended up coming back in and suffocating her. And one of the guys, I guess, that was working the house, he was a group of guys that came in and removed her body, and I could tell one of the guys he didn't feel comfortable, there was something off, which I'm really grateful for, because he was the one that ended up coming in not long after that and giving us some clothes, giving us some money, and telling us how to get to the bus stop, and letting us know that we had to run and we needed to hurry, and snuck us out of the house. And I just remember getting on the bus and thinking, we just got to get to my friend's house, and getting there. And then I don't remember what happened after that, but
that's how you got away, basically.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the cult. What were you able to interact with the victims? Was there any banter going back and forth? Were you able to have any sort of connection with them and talk to them and understand what horrific things were happening to all of you?
It was kind of an unspoken thing. You didn't really talk about it.
And you weren't interacting with the victims?
There were a few times, yes, that we were allowed to interact. A lot of times it was you went and you said nothing. You did nothing. I feel like I was fortunate, quote unquote fortunate, that I was allowed to be with my brothers at times.
Right.
And it's like I knew. I didn't ask. I didn't say. They didn't say. But I knew. They knew. And same thing with the other kids there.
Do you have any happy memories of your childhood?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I do. Like, if I really sit down and think about it.
Did you guys celebrate any holidays? Did you ever go to Disney World? Did you do any of that stuff? Were you going to school? Any of that?
We celebrated holidays, but that was far from happy.
Right.
You know, the dysfunction in my family, that was more like trauma that was going on. As far as school goes, I was in school. I didn't do well in school. I was the kid the teachers didn't like, you know. I acted out, and I was the kid who's, you know, the parents wouldn't allow play with your kids, and you know, I had issues. Right,
justifiably so.
You know, I was picked on and
bullied and the whole thing. Okay, so did you ever have just a little bit of confidence to ask them, why are you doing this to me?
In the moment, no. As an adult, right before I fled the state of Florida, I was receiving therapy, and it was through a faith-based, and they're like, well, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to confront someone you have an issue with. So I confronted my mom about the abuse that happened, and she told me I was a liar. A few days later, I ended up getting beat pretty bad by my dad, and that's when I was like, okay, I can't do this. I gotta go. Right,
it's not worth it. As a survivor, what are you doing to heal now? Because I'm in therapy, and that's helping me. And outside of being in therapy, my assisting, rescuing, empowering victims of sex trafficking and domestic violence and children and so on and so forth is therapeutic for me personally. It brings the utmost gratification to me because I see myself in that child that was abused. I see myself in the rape victim that was raped. So that's therapeutic for me. What are you doing to keep going and heal?
Okay, well, therapy is, you know, a must in my life.
Right.
And I've also found like a group that's been very beneficial as far as like teaching me about healthy relationships.
Right.
So I have this core group of friends that has been life-changing. But then I've also found healing through art, and that's what kind of steered me in the direction of graphic design, which I love. I'm in love with graphic design. It's been amazing, and it's been so healing.
And I must tell our viewers that your art is stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm so proud of you, and thank you for the mug that you made for me. It was so beautiful. Thanks. And I love your art. It's so stunning.
Thank you.
So you should be really proud of your art.
Thank you. It's, you know, through avenues like that, and then also getting involved when I can.
Right.
There's a human trafficking coalition at my school that I get to be involved in. We had a human trafficking awareness day, and you know, and a lot of my projects that I get to do are based around that, about bringing awareness to trafficking and just domestic violence stuff.
Right.
So.
I think I forgot to ask you, can you tell me about the age range of the children that were present at the cult?
Yeah, the kids that were there. I don't know.
Youngest to the oldest.
You know when you're younger and you think like 17 is like man, she's so old, you know? So it's like, I have like memories of that. So it's like trying to gauge. I know there were older teenagers there. And as far as the younger ones, I don't know. But I will say, just to give an example, just a picture to everybody, it's like the youngest ones were in diapers still. So it wasn't, you know, of puberty age. You know, I was in there at 4.
And the clients and the Johns were
the pedophiles.
The pedophiles were from every aspect of career. Like
right. And it wasn't like, okay, so the older teenagers, okay, they might be adults, but I mean, for real, they're going there to pay for something.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what would you advise a survivor of sex trafficking or domestic violence, or a child that somehow, our viewers who are watching this show, what would be your advice if they're in it, or if they have just escaped? What would you say to them?
First, I would say don't go back. Right. Because just like with domestic violence, human trafficking survivors, we're kind of like programmed. I don't know if you've heard of Stockholm syndrome.
Of course. Yes.
And it's like they on average return back to their trafficker about 7 times before. Love, it's not normal. I promise there's so much more out there. Right. Like so much more for you. Right. And then I would say just hang on. It sucks. It sucks so bad. It sucks, and it's a lot of work, but it is so worth it. Right. It is so worth it. And then to other people, I would say, if this is something you want to get involved in, and this is something you want to participate in, it's going to take a lot of patience. Right. And understanding, empathy. You can't rush it. Right. And
it takes time.
Yeah.
It's a long process.
And unfortunately, what I'm finding is, okay, there was a point when I was in crisis mode, and I needed some type of help, you know. Now I am not in crisis mode. I'm going to school, which is amazing, but I still deal with repercussions of it. Like the trauma therapy that I have to go through, and I mean, it was just the other night I was waking myself up screaming in the middle of the night. Right. And it's like, it doesn't end at the crisis. So getting help, or help being available after crisis mode is needed just as much.
Well, healing is a lifelong process. And I'll give you, for my example, when I was a child, I was beaten from the back. I would be watching TV, and all of a sudden my mother would come and start pounding on my head, and I was probably 4 years old. So I still, to this day, I'm in my 40s, I'm always looking like back. I always feel like someone is behind me that is trying to hit me. So it takes a long time to heal from this. And tell us a little about how No More Tears has helped you, because this is important for our viewers to understand.
Well, I mean, they've connected me with other survivors, which has been amazing, because when you feel like you're all alone in this, it's really hard. But when you meet other people, and then they can say, yeah, me too, or you can identify with something that they're sharing, and it's like, I know what you're feeling. Right. I know what that's like, and okay, I'm not some weird alien. Like, yeah, that's like really huge. 1, to be believed, and 2, to have other people walking beside you that have been through it. And I appreciate people that haven't been through it. I mean, they're awesome too, and being connected with them too. And through them, I was able to meet someone in the graphic design industry that is, kind of just, talked to me and like mentored me for a little bit, and just, set me on the right path. And then also, when I left my husband, I left everything. I just didn't care. I just wanted to get away. So I came with nothing to Florida. And there's been times where I've needed medication, that I needed clothes, that,
Or financial assistance.
yes.
Right.
So,
Okay, well, we're so happy that you joined us today, and you are right here on top of my list of heroes. And I can't thank you enough. You will always be my hero. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I know that you are going to succeed and do well. And I know as a survivor, for both of us, it takes time to heal. It's a long process, but we're gonna get through this because we're strong. And thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you.
yeah.